the manager of the technical marketing team here at GitLab. Technical marketing team is part of strategic marketing, and this is the strategic marketing group conversation for April 2020. So welcome everyone. Before we get started, as people are putting in their questions, I just wanted to do a shout out and say Happy Earth Day to everybody. It happens to be that today. Go plant a tree or recycle something or clean up a park or just take a walk, but stay 6 feet apart from everyone. So with that, looks like there's a few comments starting to come in or questions. I'll turn it over to Jim. You want to voice your comment?
Thanks, Dan. Just thanking the team. I am always amazed each one of these sessions you all do, the amount of content and the quality of the content. I think it's quite impressive, and it's very much appreciated by the field. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, yeah, please keep everyone giving us the feedback and positives and negatives on the content so we can continue to improve it and make sure that it's useful for everyone out there. Sid.
Yeah, I really love the new graphic that we put out in our recent blog post about GitHub price changes. Are we going to move to kind of that way of presenting maybe on our GitHub versus GitLab page? And the other question is kind of how broad do we make these comparisons? Because, for example, if we compare with Basecamp, we have merge requests, they don't have it. I think it's a good point, like we're a much broader application, but then specifically saying they don't have merge request feature A, B, and C, like, yeah, Basecamp doesn't have all the rest of the software development lifecycle. Maybe that's a better point to make than picking up merge request and then, yeah, like where does it end? They don't have monitoring either. Guess what? They're only for issues.
Sid, if I can answer that, very good points.
good background.
So yes, we are going to use a background that like you see behind me, but we're going to be comparing at the use case level. So source code management, CI/CD, DevSecOps, that sort of level of demarcation. So the very first graphic you see would be at the use case.
Put it back on the table.
So that's the first main thing I want to point out. The second thing, there's some background noise. If you don't mind muting, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ashish. The second thing is, you're right. The very first panel is going to be at the use case level. So for a Basecamp, you will find use cases where they don't participate. So it'll be very apparent. The idea is to make it apparent for some of these point tool vendors that they don't participate in the entire breadth of what DevOps tools are supposed to do. So the very first panel would have at that level so that users can very quickly distinguish the fact that they have a very narrow offering versus our broad offering. And then when you click on that individual tab, obviously there'll be a lower level comparison as it pertains to that particular use case.
Thanks for that. What do you mean with use case? Is that the same as stage? What's behind you? Is that something different?
It's something, it's what John is working on in terms of the go-to-market model. So he's defined a few use cases, and I think John can, maybe later on cover that particular sort of separation. The reason why we went to the model that you see behind me on my background is that today the rest of the comparison site follows that model. So we didn't want to inject a new framework, when we put the graphic out. So that's why we wanted it to be consistent as of now, but eventually it's going to be moving over to a use case-based model.
Mahesh, if I might add to that, Sid, for your question that you asked, what is a use case, Sid? I'd love for people to see slide number 4 in the presentation. I'll share it briefly. So this is slide number 4. Very briefly, what a use case is, or attempt to define, what exactly is a customer problem that is well defined that a customer is trying to solve. So we often talk about the value that GitLab brings to our customers, and we talk about the features on how they can help solve those. But the use case actually very briefly is like the what is the exact problem, how is it best articulated by a customer in their language, how does the industry define it, It's a defined problem. It's a definitive problem with a defined budget usually that allows our sales team to to focus right on that use case. The use cases could be, I want to solve for managing my code and intellectual property. I want to like make my bills better. I want to incorporate security into it. So slides 4 and 5 give a good overview of that. And if, we'll provide a link right now that goes to the handbook page that describes the use case in much more detail and all the use cases that are underneath this. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you, William, for linking what is a use case.
So there's like slide 6, there's about 8 use cases. Is that what I should think about?
Yes, slide 8
primary use cases that we're focusing on first. Yeah.
Right, and we're still continuing to define the use cases.
Right, and new ones come up that we we're watching for that all the time. So, for example, on slide 5, it mentions a new use case, remote software development, wasn't on our radar as a customer movement that we were getting a lot of traction on. I've been talking to folks at first, but with COVID-19, that became a much bigger thing to focus on. So that moved up in priority and became something we're focusing on. So slide 5 does talk about, here's kind of the prioritization that we've done around the key use cases that we're hearing from sales and customers and folks we're talking to, that we should make sure that we have good assets for. Slide 6 is illustrating, this is the bill of materials that we're creating there's about 35 assets for each use case, from resource pages with information about the market requirements, which are a key piece of this, all the way to demos and competitive information created in that space. So when a customer comes to or talks to a salesperson or marketing person about a particular use case they have a challenge with, then GitOps and infrastructure, or I need help securing and versioning my development assets, right? Then we will have a set of content ready to go that's all linked together, and that's ready to go for that. And so that's what slide 6 is illustrating. Slide 6 is actually the heat map of where we started a quarter ago and where we're at this point. So
cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I must say it's tough for me to kind of view the competition in this lens, because I wouldn't know, like, hey, if you compare with a JFrog Artifactory, for example, how would that work in a use case perspective?
So a key piece of the use case is the next level breakdown into, okay, so if there's this particular problem that a customer has that they're trying to solve, what are what we call the market requirements that are necessary? You can call them market capabilities. We're trying to not overlap with some terms that are already out there, that are necessary regardless of what GitLab has, right? This is what competitors will come with. These are the things that competitors, analysts and customers come with and say, this is what I'm looking for. So if I need to secure and version my assets, I need to be able to branch, or I need to be able to store my code somewhere safely. I need to be able to make sure that I have code integrity, right? And so those are things that we can look across competitors and say, here's where, on this even playing field, here's where we are compared to where you are. Right? So it's an outside-in look at what we provide based on what the customer is going to be looking for.
And thanks for that. And maybe it's just a lack of imagination on my part. So if there's like a first comparison, like a draft or something that you have based on use cases with like a JFrog Artifactory, I'd love to see it so I can form a better mental image.
I'll take that action, Sid. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I'll go next. Thanks, team, for putting the information together. The question is, what specific content are we seeing kind of getting the most views from prospects? And let me give a little bit of background. Myself and Andrew Glidden, my SDR, are working to do some outbound activities, obviously. And we want to kind of mirror what we see prospects asking us for information, so we can kind of give back. So I didn't know if any of the content is like, hey, this is number 1 ranked, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and then we can leverage that in our outreach to customers. So this question is, do we have kind of a prioritized rank list of what people are hitting on our webpage?
Well, I will answer that. I should have the answer based on the metrics we have on our content. I don't have it on the top of my head. We'll get back to you with the definitive top 3 to 5 pieces of content that have highest views. But in general, we know that gated demos, our documentation pages, blogs, and thought leadership papers have very high views. The comparison pages also come in pretty close. I think we have the numbers on that recently. We looked at it, about 4,000 views per month, Mahesh?
That's right, about 4, on average, especially the bigger competitors such as GitHub get about 4,000 views a month, and the others are averaging about 2,500.
So I understand the ask, so we can get back to you with definitive, based on the metrics we are seeing, we will be able to identify those.
Great, thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Mahesh.
And I'll take the opportunity to mention that is one of the things that we're working on putting together right now, dubbed Learn at GitLab, maybe merged into other things, but there's a lot of content out there to Sid's point, and the docs are a great place where a lot of people go to get help about the product. And we also have demos here and other technical content there, and customer resources. Content team has some really great stuff and topic pages. And so the idea is to look across all of those and get those in a place where we can see the path, not just Path Factory where we're serving them a set of things, but also as they're hitting our website, what is the path that they're following? What are they looking at, so that by the time they get to an SDR or to you, that you have a sense of like, okay, how far did they go down a learning path that we provided for them? How much of this particular content did we look at? So we're early in that, but that's where we'd like to get to, is that when you get a lead, it has more rich information about what they've touched and gone after.
Yes, Dan, I'm thinking like, so if we start to see like a trend in like GitOps starting to go like this, we're going to mirror our outreach on GitOps, or it could be DevSecOps or whatever it is. So it helps when we see that uptick in customers or prospects pulling information from us or viewing content, we'll just mirror it from an outbound standpoint as well. So that's the ask. But thank you, Dan.
Absolutely, yeah. We have, that's a great example. We have seen that, right? And right now we're hearing it from like your team when you share it with us, and when we talk to folks. And so, like, as an example, we pulled GitOps because we were seeing that happen with GitOps. We pulled GitOps forward as a use case that we were prioritizing. So we started it earlier in the mid-quarter because it was set for second quarter start. And so that's an example of a reaction to that. The idea of getting more metrics that are like less about, hey, we're hearing this from several places, but more about, hey, we know this because we're seeing the data. Is where we want to get to.
Great, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
I think I have the next one. Just wanted to say thank you for your team, Ashish. We always love the work that your team does, so thank you there. But one of the things I always say in sales, we've always been taught to focus on capabilities and benefits that a customer gets rather than a feature, because a feature can always be built by someone else and competed against. So I know your team's aware of those kind of things. I just thought it fits more with the use case study. It sounds like John's got an answer on that side of things. So thanks.
Yeah, John, I'll just chime in and verbalize the answer too, and do a quick screen share. As we're building the use cases out, we're thinking outside in from the way the market is viewing it and thinking about it. And so that leads us then to the ability then to decompose into, say, for this example would be for automating build and test for the CI space, of how do we break it down into the requirements, which will help to drive comparisons, but it'll also help to drive ROI and value. So it's exactly what you're asking for, I think, is a way to up-level the messaging and talk about it like this. And so we think that and we believe as we build these use cases, the market requirements will be a derivative, and we can derive from it both, Dan's team is building demos. Let me show you I'll go back to one page and show you the output, or how we think the output of that flows. Sorry about the scrolling, but the market requirements would flow to both comparisons, which Mahesh is driving, input into ROI models, and then also blogs and demos and other content specific related to it. So all of this to help foster those conversations.
Cool. I think I have the next question. Kudos, Dan. I love the video. It was super helpful in preparing for this discussion. Yeah, I asked about where the drives for the use cases are, and I think William responded with where they specifically are in the handbook. I would appreciate it if those would be updated, especially on the use case pages themselves, as like they're largely aligned to how the product organization is structured, and they shouldn't be 100% aligned. But as PMs are reviewing those use case contents, it's helpful for them to know, like, oh, maybe where we're headed is not exactly how we're describing a specific use case, and knowing the specific dry to go contact about an update there would be helpful.
Kenny, I got it for action. I'll do that. And the other thing, when you read those pages, the intent of the way we laid those pages out, the top half of it up to the market requirements is really intended to be kind of the view of the market, and then the bottom half of it is more how we answer, our differentiators, our messaging, and things how we position. So that's the intent of the way we tried to structure it, as well as we iterate on building these.
Yeah,
and it's been, and frankly, the other thing is it's been helpful, really helpful, the partnership with PMs and others to help put this together. It's not happening in a silo. It's something that as we iterate and collaborate, they get better.
Yeah, totally agreed. And I think that I've already heard some PMs have concern about that view of the market being duplicative of our direction pages, but they shouldn't be. One should be about where we're headed, and I think another can be a more immediate description about what customers are experiencing today. So I think there's good separation there, but just knowing who the content owner is would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good point. Thanks.
I'm back. Sorry to do this, but I always have to leave a little hockey in here somehow, some way. For those completely deprived people in hockey today. But one of the things I've been watching, the NHL has done there's been a lot of unique ways that people have reached out and done things differently. The NHL actually does something really cool, that they put the players on, they do chats between the players, and like fans can ask questions and things like that. I was just thinking about that. We're so remote and we do those kinds of things. What if we did live sessions where people could do that kind of thing with GitLab? It shows our remoteness, our openness to working with customers. Just an idea.
Hey, John, thanks for that suggestion. I think there's broader efforts across marketing on that. But just as an example, and you would be aware of this, maybe not everybody, but we had planned an in-person customer advisory board that was going to last 1.5 days. We converted that into a half-day virtual customer advisory board meeting yesterday. Wonder if Kim Locke or Colin are on the call. Kim, do you want to give a little color to that? You're on mute.
I am, and I can. The discussions that we were able to have virtual were a great opportunity, but I understand exactly where John's looking for this. It would be great if, John, can I interpret what I was hearing? You good with that? I think what John is saying is, hey, if we advertised a session where like customers that are not necessarily cab members could come and ask those questions publicly, is that what you're saying? Then we live stream that. Is that kind of what you're hinting at?
Yeah, something like that. GitLab TV with our product team in CI/CD today, and people can come in and see what we're working on. Hey, here's the features coming this month, and talk about those kind of things, or coming in the next month that we're working on. Hey, we'd love to have your feedback. Sort of like a live representation of what we do on our upcoming releases page, but doing it in a TV type format.
Okay, that's definitely something that we could, explore. We could also look at. You mentioned the NHL. I thought you were mentioning the players playing video games together and simulating the games, which is what a lot of sports are having to do.
They get like they had 4 players from Boston on yesterday, and they talk about growing up in Boston, and so it's sort of like a behind the scenes, get to know them a little bit more personal kind of thing, what life is like at home for them. Well, we have a lot of people that work in that way, and it'd be interesting for people to connect with the GitLab team.
That's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that. Should look into that. Mayank, you want to voice your question?
Yeah. First of all, I just wanted to start off by saying thanks to the strategic marketing team. I really love the content you guys put out. I use it every day in conversations. Thank you so much. I did want to ask if and where and how we see a better together story with our partners that we have in market today, and how that fits into the use case strategy, and if there's anything that the Alliance team can do to help.
Appreciate that. Yeah, so there are some answers there, and I'll, I don't know if Tina's actually on the call right now. She's at a partner thing, I think, but
yeah,
yeah.
I'll jump on it because Tina and I we've been working on this a lot, and so and this is really valid, and it's one of the reasons that we look at GitOps as we go forward, because this is a use case where we really do have a key partner. We're together, we are better together with the partner, and that's what we're trying to focus on. And so as we develop the use case, the market requirements start to outline what does the market look for in this kind of a solution, and then as we look at where we are and how do partners help to fill in, is where we see these opportunities to start to highlight that story and to build that story out. And so each one of the use cases, as we build out the use cases, we have a couple of points where we're looking specifically at where do we have that partner, where does the partner fit into it. And I think we'll see this in, at some level, there's some parts of perhaps in the DevSecOps ones where there's some partner, elements of it. There's also, GitOps, I think is one where it's going to be most significant. And it's one that, William's on point working on as we go forward. So.
Thanks, John. We also have Vault, right, with the security piece that Fern has been looking at. So.
Yep. Yeah. So when I think about use cases and review some of the content, the slide deck that you presented, so many partners come to mind. I think there's an endless amount of possibilities, and of course we need to be strategic on how we kind of position ourselves with our partners in that better together story. But
Right.
Glad to hear that we're weaving it into the narrative.
And the use case page, that resource page, really is a place for us to collaborate and to try to decide how do we want to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, unless there are any other questions that anyone has that they want to speak out, there are no more in the doc. We are about 3 minutes to the end of the meeting. And I will call it. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and attention and for your input and your comments. Always appreciated. Have a great day.